Last week, I took Reggie, my cheap, high-mileage XJR, to a specialist to get him checked out. And it turns out that he is much, much worse than we were expecting. But I'm still determined to bring him back to health. In this video, we're going to be tracking down some cheap parts for Reggie. I'm going to be using smoke bombs to try and find the terrible leak that's afflicting it in the boot. I'm going to be fixing the locks. I'm going to be rebuilding the front seat. I'm going to be diagnosing the ABS fault and getting the rear shocks replaced. I started by removing the locking module, which is in the boot next to the battery under the fuse box. So this is a bit of bad news really, because you can see where it's burnt out, where the water's been touching it. So I'm going to need to either send it for repair or get a replacement module, which wasn't the cheapest option. I was hoping it was going to be something almost free to fix, like a little connector or something that had furred up. Well, now that I know what that problem is, I can start ordering some of the bits that I need to sort Reggie out. So first of all, that locking module. I had a quick look and these are available on eBay. You have to be very careful to pick the later module. Unfortunately, the earlier models, they're about sort of 60, 70 pounds. The later ones start at 200. Auto Reserve, who I've dealt with before and I really trust, also have them on their website. So I'm going to be ordering this from them, as well as a few other bits. I'll need to take a look under this trim because I suspect there's some rust under there, but in the meantime I'll definitely need another, so that's something else I've ordered from the guys, as well as one of the rear lights which is cracked. Only £25, so pretty good value for those. The headliner is a bit worse for wear. Fortunately, you can get brand new replacement panels for these. I had a look on eBay. Headliner World seems to be a good make, and I found one there for a reasonable price. Unfortunately, mine has a sunroof, so it's going to be a little bit more complicated to do. Generally speaking, a lower and an upper seat cushion are about £100 each. But I had the extremely good fortune of finding a whole seat in the right colour and stitching for just £50, albeit with a little problem we'll find out about later. As you can see, the water leak in the boot is what is really concerning Pistachio, so that's what we'll be tackling next. This is what was ultimately responsible for frying that locking module. I start off by removing as much as I can from the boot, just to make some room and see if we can find the source of that water. Right, cleaned it all out, and you can see here that, yeah, there is quite a bit of water there. It looks like it should be a drain, but doesn't feel like it. I got quite excited because I found some dampness right under what appears to be a seam. Removing the boot liner still points to that particular joint. Could it be so easy? I tried sealing up the joint in the corner of the boot that I saw, but unfortunately after a couple of days I've come in, it is still leaking, so that is not what it was. So it's time for phase 2, which involves this. Now what this is basically a smoke pellet. They use it when they do testing up chimneys, that kind of stuff. And Clive, whose Ferrari I reviewed a while ago, got in touch and said, when you have these leaks, do a smoke test. So the first thing is, I've put some bricks in the boot because you do have to have a surface which is non-flammable for these to get on. I've taken out quite a bit of the stuff in there. It's not completely empty, but yeah, let's hope I'm not doing something really stupid. And after a few minutes, here is the culprit. So it's really important when you do this that you do it on a still day with no wind. There was a very slight breeze here and occasionally it blows the smoke off, but you can still clearly see it is coming from that seam. I would declare that a success. The smoke is odourless and doesn't stain, so you just need to leave it to clear out for a couple of minutes and then we're good to go. This is called Captain Tolly's Creeping Crack Cure, and it's used in boats and stuff like that where there's leaks. And essentially you put it in a crack and it finds its way into the little sort of spaces and then cures. And as I say, it worked on the Rover, and this looks like the perfect thing for it. You can see further down there's still some sealant, but up at the top it just looks like the sealant's fallen out, or maybe the panels move very slightly. The next day, and it's time to see if that leak has been finally cured. And I think that we can now definitely say it hasn't. It is leaking like a sieve, so I'm forced to do things properly. So I've had to dig out both those channels because there's a little bit leaking from the left as well. I've also put some silicone under the window seal itself because the seam carries on down through the window. But for these seams here, I'm going to use some proper PU sealer to just sort of put it all back in, smooth it out, and then see if there's any more leaks in this boot. Spray some WD-40 or similar on your fingers or your gloves before smoothing over to get a perfect finish. A couple of days later, and time to put it to the test. Has it worked? I would say partly. The bits that I've tried to fix, they look completely dry, which is great. There is, however, some water here, but I think I can see where it's coming from, and it might have something to do with that rust, so not too disastrous. In fact, I soon found the problem, and it had nothing to do with rust. It was just one of the sunroof drains that had been taken out of its socket and was discharging directly into the boot, so an easy fix. What you see here is a replacement front seat for Reggie, and I was extremely lucky because I found exactly the right kind of seat. There's lots of different colours, but also the way the stitching is completely different. The two areas where the other one is worn and cut through are absolutely brilliant on this seat. So, but there is one catch, and that is that underneath the seat base is not complete on this. I'm going to have to remove the top and rear cushion and put them onto the other chair instead. New seat is fitted, very happy with that, and now time to see if there's an added bonus, because you'll remember that when I was taking it apart I found the wires from the heating pad were broken. Could it be that, having now put the new plug in, that maybe the heated seat will work? And it is definitely working. That's awesome news. Now, next thing that I need to move on to is sorting out the clicker for the doors. So the remote fob, which hasn't been working. Now that the leak in the boot is sorted, I can put the refurbed unit, or the second-hand unit that I got from Auto Reserve, I can fit that, program it, and see if it will work. Also, the interior is starting to look good now. Again, from Auto Reserve, I've got some second-hand carpets, which they chucked in for free, and just to help me out. And here, also these, I'm gonna sort these out. And then the interior is gonna be looking pretty respectable. I use Polytrol as a general back to black or colour restorer because I find it lasts much, much longer than the other products that are around. Now, let's see if we can get the central locking working. So I purposely waited a couple of days before doing this. I waited for some more rain, which we've just had, and then checked the boot again, and it is all dry. So I've definitely stopped the water coming in. Now, just to fit that unit, and then see if we can get it to work. Just programmed in the fobs, which basically you pull back the flasher, turn the key into position 1, flash 4 times, you get a little, the red light goes on the gear console, and then you press the keys 5 times between the 2 fobs, and let's see if it works. Oh yes. Just a quick aside while I have your attention. If you're enjoying this video and you want to get extra content on my projects, on the cars that I'm filming and reviewing, then please do consider becoming a channel member. And it's finally time to find out how easy or difficult it's going to be to get those rear shocks replaced. Right everybody, we're here at Tom Lenthal's place with Reese, who's going to have the honour of working on Reggie. Now last week, Tom shattered my dreams about this car and kind of found quite a few things that I didn't expect that would be wrong with it. We did know about the shocks. The guys are going to be doing it today because it's a job I don't really want to get involved with. So what kind of thing is it? Is it quite tricky? Is it?
It's not the most trickiest job in the world, but with the position of these rear springs, if you haven't got the correct clamps, it can be quite dangerous. So, because we've got the correct clamps.
So it's better for a professional to do, really?
Yeah, these ones. If it was just your normal run-of-the-mill spring, it would be okay with normal clamps.
Reese started by compressing the shocks. He then moved on to take out some of the locating bolts on the A-frame to give it some movement later when we have to take the shocks off. The lower shock bolts looked like they were pretty seized in, but actually came out very easily. It's the top mounts next. Once they're off, you can see the A-frame dropping down, and this gives Reese just enough room to bend the whole unit off to the side and start dismantling it. The old shock drops straight out, and we're ready to put the new one in. For someone experienced like Reese with the right tools and know-how, it's not too much of a difficult job, but funnily enough, one of the trickiest bits is reconnecting the active shocks. It's a tiny little plug with little pins which are easily bent, and Reese even resorted to using a dentist's mirror to make sure that he got it right. Just left Tom's place, and I'm happy to say that Reggie is feeling fine. That horrible knocking noise from the back is completely gone. Not only that, but Reese also did a bit of fault finding for me with the ABS light, and it turns out the sensor is fine. It's down to the loom, so I'm going to get that replaced. On the minus side, when we took it out together, it was sort of popping out of gear slightly again, so we're pretty sure that the gearbox needs to be done. Big thanks to Tom and to Reese for helping Reggie out, and of course to Andy at Auto Reserve for helping me find parts. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you for the next video.